Good morning. This is Angela with today's cup of tea. Really basic, really broad topic, and it's all about love and what is conditional love versus unconditional love. How do we love? How are we expected to love? And how we have become to expect ourselves to love. And this is a really big topic. This has to do with relationships and what we call marriage and unions and all that kind of stuff. And it's really sort of in the wake of something that's going on. I live in North Carolina, in the United States, and we have right now coming up for voting for or against an amendment that will only recognize what they call normal heterosexual marriages in our Constitution. And that includes not recognizing civil unions and all other kinds of partnerships. And, that is a whole political stance, and I'm not going into politics. But this really is a great springboard for discussion on love and what love and partnerships and commitments are supposed to be about. Because in all essence, and I've said this before, and the funny part is, yes, I'm an interfaith minister, and yet I will talk time and time again on how we really need to throw out the institution of marriage and start from scratch and look at it from today's standpoint and sort of change what our expectations are of committed relationships. Because here's the thing, marriage has been around for thousands and thousands of years, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And you know what? It changes in culture to culture. It changes in generation to generation. But you know what? It takes a long time because we have never really looked at it, except saying, okay, that's part of it. But we've never looked at it in the terms of how our cultures have changed, how the way we live has changed, how our awareness has changed. So I'm not even going to talk about that because those are discussions on very personal opinions and everything else. But here's a perception, here's a perspective to look at. And I talk about this again and again in all of my webcasts. I think almost all of them, it comes up on how my understanding of the only absolute in this universe is love. That is what the universal life force is. That is the highest vibration, is unconditional love. Unconditional love, which means love no matter what. Because you know what? We've created the ego. We've created conditions. We've created fears and anxieties and regrets and separation and all of this stuff. And from what we have discovered, from what we have created on this path, on this path of learning that we had desired to have, we have decided from the ego that we needed to love from the ego. And we wanted to experience that. We wanted to experience love from separation and the idea of separation. So what does that do? That puts boxes around love. That puts conditions and limitations and egoic expectations around love. But if we love unconditionally, then there are no conditions, there are no boxes, there are no institutions. We have created anything that is conditional is something we have created from the ego. So, and I talk to people about this many times because we are brought up, and this is one of the most ingrained things that we have added to our culturalistic expectations. And it's what our parents teach us. It's what our friends, our peers, our society teaches us. What is marriage? What are relationships? How do you define them? And here's the thing. So if the only absolute in the universe is love, then that means absolute. That means there's always love. We are always loved. We always love from the very highest level. Why put conditions around it? Why say that I must love one person more than everyone else? Now, it's really funny because I say this, and a lot of times you might expect, well, this is somebody who's not married or doesn't understand. No, I've been married for going on 18 years. And yet, at the same time, I firmly believe that we have really outdated what we expect from marriage. And many times we are brought up to say that marriage will complete us, that being partners with somebody will complete us. Well, here's the key, and this is what I say to anybody who's looking for what they call a soulmate or their twin or whatever. It's a misnomer. We will only find those who are most compatible in the highest vibration, have the most wonderful time of the relationship when we are in unconditional love with ourselves. And that is first and foremost. We need no one to complete us because we are already complete. And when we get there, we will then attract those others who are complete in themselves and complete in unconditional love for themselves, so that we can attract the highest and best situation. So, because if you look at this, what is marriage? What is the institution of marriage? And what I tell people is, okay, you can say it's in the Bible, you can say it's in the Quran and all these religious books, but here's the thing, it's different. How it's defined is different from culture to culture. How it's defined is different from generation to generation. Therefore, it's something we created. It's not something that's universal. It's not something that has always been the same and will always be the same. It's not. We try to pretend it has been, but it's really not. And if you look at it, what does it say? It says, I must love you, my partner. I must love my spouse above all else, above everyone else. Well, here's the thing. We're supposed to, at the end of the day, the remembrance that we're working on is coming back to loving each other, everyone, with our entire hearts, with our entire bodies and souls, that we are truly in love. And I'm talking about from the heart, not from the ego, without condition, without doing it to make ourselves feel better with conditions or because of this, or just to be in love, to come from love and to be there. Now, there are good parts to marriage, and there are good parts to committed relationships. That has to do with also, but with the right intention. The intention is to grow ourselves, to be able to grow ourselves and give ourselves challenges to overcome, on accepting others as they are. That's another big learning curve for committed relationships. It doesn't matter whether it's marriage or not. It's anything that's a long-term deal, whether it's a committed friendship, whether it's committed, love or relationship, or spousal, or, marriage. It is all about how the positive side of that experience is learning to accept someone as they are and love them beyond their 3D physical situation and quirks and what they're going through and their issues, that we love them unconditionally anyway. That's sort of practice. The way I look at it, it's really sort of practice. And if we can do that, then it's sort of practice for us to be able to do that with everybody. And that's what we're working towards. That's the beauty of all of this. How beautiful would it be if we all loved each other that unconditionally, to say, I love you regardless of, what you do, what your own issues are, what your quirks are, what your judgments are, what all of that stuff is, what your fears and anxieties and regrets, rejections and resentments and angers are. I still love you, because you know what? If we do truly come to the perspective that we are all one and come from oneness, guess what? You are me. You're a reflection of me. So therefore, if I can love somebody else unconditionally, I can love myself unconditionally. Because you are loving yourself unconditionally. It's just another aspect of you. So it is practice. And so there are definitely advantages and things that we can learn from long-term committed relationships. However, when it becomes limiting, when it says I cannot love somebody else, I cannot do something, or I have to do something, or I can't do something because of this box, because of this relationship, that's when it becomes confining. That's when it becomes it's not in our highest and best good. Now I know people who are holding on to marriage for the sake of marriage. I know people who are staying married regardless of the fact that their relationship is sort of fallen apart and they just haven't been able to work it out together, because they believe that, what they were told, that the church told them you have to be married forever, their family told them you have to be married forever, and that you're a failure if you do not succeed in this marriage. Wow, that's a big onus to put on us. We are going through this for experiences, and you know what? We live a long time, and we're living longer and longer. So of course we're going to change, and for a long-term thing, for us to all change in any kind of relationship together at the same pace, that's really challenging to expect. That's a lot of variables and complexities to expect. So there are two sides to that, two coins to consider. And on that, I'm going to do the clearing for today. And that is all about unconditional love. And so, would you like all the following without trauma, drama, or illness, without creating or recreating a negative situation for illustration or experience, and all with ease, grace, balance, harmony, joy, fun, excitement, adventure, love, humor, and bliss? Would you like it for all versions of you, all times, all places, into the ever-expanding universe, to infinity and beyond? Would you like to receive all information for this clearing via instantaneous and comprehensive download in the moment, version, and timeline from which it is requested? Would you like to also have all of Creator's truths and understandings, perceptions, perspectives, discernments, and definitions that come in via this clearing and healing to replace your own and become your own for divine alignment? And would you like to offer this clearing and healing to all ancestors and descendants, their version, if they so choose to accept? So, on that, would you like to dissolve, resolve, release, and clear all etheric binding agreements that require you to define yourself via the definitions of love, through boxes of love, to define love via the ego, to define love via a box or a definition of others? Would you like to know how that has served you to have those agreements in place, to how it will serve you to be without them? And then would you like to thank all parties involved, to open the doors to apology and forgiveness to and from all parties involved? Download the feelings, understanding, and knowledge of apology and forgiveness to and from all parties involved. Pull all beliefs that are related to these agreements, including love is defined by my society, by my culture, by my family, by what I was raised with. There are definitions to love. There are boundaries to love. There are conditions to love. I am loved only if I do blank. I am only worthy of love if I blank. Oh, all of those. There's tons and tons I'm hearing of those kind of beliefs. To pull all of those that are related to these agreements. To pull all related fears and anxieties, regrets, rejections, resentments, anger, and guilt. Would you like to pull the memory and energy of that from the cellular level? Pull related self-limiting thoughts, words, and actions from the cellular level. Transform into Creator's light, send them back to Creator, and close those receptors. Open new ones and saturate the cells and in between the cells with the highest vibration of Creator's unconditional love. And then download the beliefs: I can love without boundaries. I'm allowed to love without boundaries and to love unconditionally, and to release the definitions of conditional love, to release all definitions of love, and to understand that love is unconditional. To download the beliefs: I am unconditionally loved. I know how to love unconditionally. I know how to do it in the highest and best way for all involved. And I know how that feels. I know how to move forward that way. And to download all the feelings and understandings and knowledge of that from Creator. And then also that you're worthy, deserving, and able to, that it's possible, allowed, okay, and safe to, that you're ready, willing, and able to, and that you have that in your life right now. And then would you like to write off as completing the Akashic records, heal, resolve, and clear the timelines in all directions to infinity with the violet and platinum flames? Woo, that was a lot. Would you like to then, and if you'd like to receive all that, clear your minds, take a deep breath, and say, yes, unconditional love. And that's it. Have a wonderful, and we'll talk to you later in the week. This is Angela. Today's a Cup of Tea.